Everyone, and welcome to the Riverfront. This is episode number 492 of the world's most dangerous podcast, where we talk about the Cincinnati Reds and occasionally, just occasionally, Pokey Reese. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. With me again this week, my guy, Nate. How are you, Nate?
Chad, I am great. Had a nice little surprise today. I have a client, a friend who is, I think he's from Columbus, but spent a lot of time in the Cincinnati area. He is now in Virginia like us. And he had a home inspection today, and he brought me a little Reggie Jackson candy bar.
What, a Reggie bar? I mean, wait a minute. Hold on. Is this like an original Reggie bar from the 70s?
They have started remaking them, apparently. He gave me two. I have already sampled one. I will hit the mute button eventually and have some of this one during this show. No doubt.
That's amazing.
But delicious and an awesome little treat. So thank you. Shout out to John Shaughnessy.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, John. The Reggie bar, man. That was before your time. It was during my time, but I don't remember it because I was a wee lass.
I'm not going to wait till October to eat it.
Yeah, you should. He is Mr. October. It may taste better in October. I don't know. So as some of you may know, I've talked about a little bit here. I've been in the process of moving. We moved our family many hundreds of miles away from where we'd been. And in the moving process, obviously, I don't even have anything on my wall yet, although I guess you can see some of my bobbleheads back there, which we're going to get that worked out here in my new home studio. But in the process of unpacking it, I found something. I didn't tell you this was coming, but I'm going to see if you remember what this is. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see that? Can everyone else, if you're not watching on YouTube,
you're not missing much.
You're not missing much. But I don't know if you want to describe that, Nate, or you want me to. But it was a Christmas gift Nate gave me many moons ago.
The context, and it was actually only a couple of years ago. No, I remember. I just wanted to give you something. I think you got a new job or something. You had a desk. There was a desk involved, and I wanted to give you a little something that knew was going to mean a lot to both of us. So I drew you a picture of Chris Sabo, and there was a bunch of squigglies because he was swinging the bat so hard.
Yes, oh, that's great, and I still have that in the little frame that I got. I still have it, so it's on my desk here in my home office.
This will shock nobody. I did not launch a career as an artist. I never.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/riverfrontcincy, you will have seen that. But it has sentimental value. The Louvre reached out to me, but no, I'm keeping it here. I'm not gonna. So Nate, I guess where do we want to start this week? Because there's a lot to talk about with the old Cincinnati Reds. What do you think? Where should we start?
Well, let's start by talking about our sponsor for this week. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, we definitely have some baseball to get into, but as important as the games that have already happened are the games that are yet to be played. And if you want to go watch one of those games live, go to SeatGeek. They're the geeks of the seats. They are the best app for getting seats. They make it as easy as can be. They rank seats 1 to 10, let you know what kind of deal you're getting. They get color code those bad boys. Green means good, red means bad. The opposite of a banana, if you're familiar with Mitch Hedberg. So, you're going to go watch a Reds game. You're going to go watch anything, concert, shows, whatever. Get on SeatGeek. Use our promo code RiverfrontCincy. That's one word, Riverfront. No, I'm sorry, Riverfront. Just Riverfront. Don't put it in Cincy. That doesn't help you at all. Use code Riverfront and get $20 off your first order. Legendary. What a steal. Thank you to the good folks at SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode.
And since Nate screwed up the code, I put it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. So it's Riverfront.
Riverfront.
Nate,
just Riverfront.
Last Friday afternoon, it was early afternoon, I got a text from someone really upset with us. I'm not going to say who this was, but it's a long time, not just a long time listener. It's a long time one of the he's been a co-host many times. Nate, how's that Reggie bar? Thumbs up, thumbs down. It's thumbs up. Excellent. And he said, I just bought tickets. I'm taking my kids to the game tonight. I wish I'd listened to the podcast earlier. I could have saved $20. off my ticket. So, Nate, but should anyone want to go to Cincinnati to watch a game? I mean, the code is not just for Reds games, obviously, but it could be used for Reds games. Would that be a good idea? What do you think?
I have a feeling there's at least 1 or 2 games coming up that they're going to want to go to. We don't want to spoil too much right now, but let's just say keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. I don't know how you close your ears, but if you have that ability, don't. We're going to be dropping some news very soon that'll have you wanting to use your promo code for SeatGeek. That's all I'm going to say.
And we told you last week, we teased a little bit that we might have some announcement this week, and we're not quite there yet, but we absolutely should be by this time next week. So be sure to listen next week. Some exciting news, and I guess that's all we'll say. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Reds, Nate.
Yeah, we can answer that question in another way, because it seems like my Twitter feed is telling me that the season's over and we should not go to games. Is that the sense that you've been getting from people?
Oh man,
online?
I had a fairly well received. I know they're not called tweets anymore. Other
sheets.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to describe that site. Whatever they are now, but that basically said, okay, look, if you want to be mad, that's fine, because man, after the loss to the Brewers in Game 2, and of course the Reds lost 2-3 to the Brewers. We'll get into it. People were dropping into my mentions just livid, absolutely livid. And my response, of course, and I wrote about it in my newsletter this week, chaddotson.com. I wrote a little bit about this, which is just, the title of my newsletter piece was "How to Be a Good Reds Fan: A Step-by-Step Guide." And see what that was? I completely lied. You didn't read it because you're not subscribed, but I did not tell anybody how to be a Reds fan, because the whole idea was, if you want to be mad, be mad. There's plenty to be mad about with this organization. I mean, the ownership completely has failed us at every step of the way. Nick Kroll, for all the great things he did, and he did some great things, right? Nick Kroll, this is about to become a Nick Kroll, appreciation podcast. For all the great things he did, he didn't go out and get pitching. He didn't go out and get a bullpen, and although that's not killed him yet, there are things he could have done to really make this team better. The team is flawed, and so if you want to be mad about that, be mad about it. Again, really, I'm not going to tell anybody how to be a fan. I guess the way I put it was, if you want to be mad, be mad. If you want to hug prospects, hug prospects. If you want to, if you're just coming on board, you're jumping on the bandwagon, great, glad to have you. But my perspective is that I'm having fun. This team is no less fun because they get the crap kicked out of them by the Brewers over and 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 over. They're no less fun to me. Okay, they're still fun. They're still a game and a half out of first place in the last week of July. Now, for most organizations, that's not a big deal because they do that all the time. It is a big deal for us, and so I don't know. Be mad if you want. I'm genuinely. I drop into my mentions and keep railing against everything if you want. That's fine by me. But I don't know. I'm choosing to try to enjoy this. Baseball is supposed to be fun, and the fact of the matter is, to me, this team is still extremely fun. So there's my little rant for the week, Nate. Go ahead and take it wherever you want to take it.
That's pretty solid, so I don't have a ton to add. Well done. The Brewers series loss, we were all looking forward to it. We wanted to see the guys come up big and sort of get that monkey off their back. And, they didn't. It happens sometimes. Baseball's a weird sport. But it came on the heels of another 5-game win streak. The Reds have put together several such win streaks. And there's a time in the season when that's all that matters. You start winning a bunch of games in a row, you find yourself in the playoffs. And you do it once you get there, you find yourselves advancing. So we get to scoreboard watch because the Reds are tied for a wild card spot. We're almost to August now.
I don't know. Wait a minute. Say that again, because it's not possible. They lost 100 games last year. Say it again.
The Reds are tied for a wild card spot. I don't know about tiebreakers and stuff, but essentially, if the season ended today, the Reds would make the playoffs. At worst, they're a half game out. So I don't know what we're doing here. This team is fantastic. good teams that make long playoff runs struggle against division opponents every year. So let's enjoy these good times, because I say it all the time now, ever since I went back and did the numbers. 6 times. That's how many times they've made the playoffs in my life. So
Yeah.
I'm having a real good time.
Yeah, absolutely. The kids are all right. The kids are going to be fine. And I want to say that my first request is, Nate said, if the season ended today, can we do that? Can we end the season today? Let's just go ahead and do it, because I need the Reds to at least be have a shot here.
Let's figure out that tiebreaker first, because I don't want to end.
Let's figure that out, and then maybe tomorrow we'll end the season. No, not a whole lot to say about the Reds' new nemesis, the Brewers, but our buddy Skylar Webker, in addition to having the best name in our Patreon family by far, Skylar in our Slack channel, again, if you join our Patreon, patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, a couple bucks a month, Slack channel. It's been fun lately. There's been some anger in there too, but Skylar put this into context for me, and I thought it was fantastic, and I wanted to make sure that we shared it. And I started to just give you these stats and just like pretend like I was the smart guy that looked all this up, but I felt bad because Skylar's a really good guy. So the Reds versus Milwaukee, they're 3-10. 3-10. The Reds have lost 3 of their 13 games against the Brewers. Okay. Against the rest of Major League Baseball, the Reds are 53-38. That's 15 games over 500 against the rest of Major League Baseball. 53-38. And that is kind of shocking just to look at it like that. But then Skylar gives us the rest of the story. Games left versus Milwaukee. 0 games left against Milwaukee. Thank you for changing the schedule so we don't have 5 more, because we would have in previous years. Games left versus the rest of Major League Baseball, 58. 58 games. It's fine. It's fine. Look, it's not good. I don't know if the Brewers, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, I think, with viewer mail, but the Brewers got in their head. I don't know their kids, a lot of them. I don't know. It's been kind of ugly the way they've hit. And to me, the important part is, in between the Brewers disasters in recent days was a 5-game winning streak. 2 against the Giants, and then sweeping the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are kind of like the Reds, a little bit surprising, but not a bad team. So, again, I'm not telling you how to be a fan. I try never to do that. But to me, we have about 2 months left, a little over 2 months left, and everything to play for. And the Reds have really played well against everyone except for Milwaukee. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's have a run here.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit around and pretend that 3-game set was very fun. Outside of one game, it was not very fun. The last game, they seemed lifeless. I don't think these guys are pros. They're not out there not trying their best. It just was one of those days. Baseball is just a weird sport where weird stuff happens. So I'm not going to read anything into this matchup against the Brewers. It won't matter again unless they play them in the playoffs, because all you have to do is get to the dance. 2010 Reds were owned by the Cardinals that season. They marched right to the division title. And sure, I know how that season ended. I just don't care. It's not relevant. All you have to do is get there. Last year's Phillies team made the World Series, had a losing record against the Braves in the regular season. Like, there is no reason to, blow the whole thing up because of how a 3-game set went against the team. And the Reds are even a team that may look different, may look very different when we record our next show with the trade deadline coming. Right. So let's all just pump the brakes, have a good time, enjoy the awesome things that are happening on the field in between some Brewers losses, some guys we definitely need to talk about. And let's keep these good vibes going, because last year at this time was a pretty serious low point for Reds fans.
Right.
1 year later, must-see TV 6-7 nights a week.
And I'm fully prepared to admit that maybe it's what they used to call in the political realm the soft bigotry of low expectations. I had such low expectations for this team that maybe that's contributing to the fact that I'm really, really happy right now. But whatever it is, I don't care. The Reds we're getting ready to turn the calendar to August, and the Reds are in the playoff mix. So let's talk about some of those. I want to mention at least one of those guys right now. that we're going to talk about. I think we need to mention him. Andrew Abbott. But really, the only highlight of the Brewers series, Andrew Abbott. My goodness, what do we say about Andrew Abbott? Here's what I say, and I pulled it up here so that I can. Andrew Abbott. And if I had done more preparation, Nate, I would have had this in our outline. So sorry about that, but it's okay. Andrew Abbott, the first pitcher in Major League Baseball history. Okay, not Reds history, not in the last 10 years, in the history of Major League Baseball, with at least 60 strikeouts and an ERA under 2 in his first 10 career starts. The only pitcher in history. And so, two things. Number one, I love the fact that stat came to me from a UVA baseball account rather than a Cincinnati Reds account, because Andrew Abbott played for the University of Virginia. The second is this. The only thing I can take from that is that Abbott is almost certainly, I think it's pretty much guaranteed at this point, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be probably the best pitcher in the history of baseball. Am I how far off base am I with that?
Well, my only question is, when are they going to give him a bat? Because we need to see if he can play offense too. I don't think obviously, yeah, you're off base by you're being hyperbolic there. But what is actually happening? Like, what are we watching? Is it real? Is he one of the reasons that Congress had a Capitol Hill hearing on UFOs and aliens yesterday? Inconclusive. I don't know. Maybe. But all I know is that he is a 1.9 ERA. He rebounded to shove it against the only team that has tagged him all year when he shut the Brewers down a couple days ago. You know my favorite stat, and that's whip, walks and hits per innings pitched. 0.957 is his whip. So he's allowing less than a runner an inning to reach base. 250 ERA plus, like no matter how you slice it. You know how Baseball Reference ranks like the order they put the pictures is like the how valuable the player is to your team? Andrew Abbott's the first red on Baseball Reference.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's leading the team in baseball.
Baseball Reference wins above replacement. Wow,
false stat, but still.
Yeah, I mean, and I quibble with wins above replacement for pitchers, but that's a great sort of shorthand for this dude has been unreal.
2.5 months ago, we thought he peaked as a number 4 starter.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, we were hoping he could be a number 4 starter because the top 3 looked pretty good at that time. And you know, Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo are sweating today. Not really, obviously, but he's in that same category with them now.
I feel pretty confident that Graham Ashcraft is sweating today. It's hot out there. He's a sweaty guy.
I'm sure he's sweating. Although not over his recent performances, which have him back in our good graces. But Andrew Abbott is a guy that, you know, we joke around a lot here about University of Virginia, you know, alma mater, all that nonsense. But when he was drafted, my opinion was sort of like interesting because there are 3 pitchers that have come out of UVA that I thought, boy, these guys are going to be great pros. And one of those was a former Red, wasn't great with the Reds, but did turn out to be a great pro, Sean Doolittle, who was an All-American as a pitcher and a first baseman at Virginia. And Andrew Abbott was another one. And I thought, and the reason why is just because every time I saw him pitch, he had this bulldog. That's the quality that I would call it, bulldog. I mean, he was the most competitive guy on the field every game I saw him. And you can see that right now with the way he's throwing. Now, did I think he was going to be this good this early? No, obviously, no one did. But since they broke camp, he was great in Double-A. The dude started the season in Double-A. This is his 3rd level, and he is going to have some days. We say it about young pitchers; they're going to smack him around some. But he's such a bulldog, and something that I heard. I guess maybe it was Jeff Brantley this week. Chris Welsh, I'm not sure who it was. Talk about how smart he is and how much he studies and how much and obviously he went to the University of Virginia, so he is extremely smart.
I was waiting.
Sorry, I had to do that. Yeah, but that's why I'm hopeful for him. I mean, I hopefully he'll be able to, you know, when the league adjusts, he'll adjust back, and that is what baseball is. So to me, I mean, there's lots of other rookies we can talk about, but I feel like because of the great rookies on the offensive side of the ledger that he's really not getting enough attention, and he needs more attention. So anything else you have to say about Andrew Abbott?
No, I think we said enough, but this kid he's unreal.
All right. So let me just say before we get into some more news and notes, the Reds are officially second place, game and a half out of first, 5 games ahead of the third place Cubbies. Now, Nate, before we move on to trade deadline talk, anyone else you want to mention in particular? Any players you want to talk about? Anything you want to talk about before we dive in?
There is one guy that I want to talk about real quick.
Please be the person I want to talk about.
It is Will. Marry my sister so I can be your brother-in-law, Benson. Chad, he hasn't stopped. He keeps doing it. I keep waiting for that shoe to drop. It's not dropping. It looks like it's sturdier than ever. I think he's about 1 at bat away from qualifying for some of the rankings, the top 10 stuff. His 385 on base percentage would be 8th in the National League. His 909 OPS, 7th. And his 282 batting average is just outside the top 10. I'm just saying, you subtract that awful start that he had, that 1 for 22 or whatever it was. And Will Benson's literally playing at an MVP level. I love the kid. I'm so happy he's a Cincinnati Red.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm always ready to talk about Will Benson, who I took some abuse for pumping him up before the season. Here's the stat that blows my mind. If you know what weighted runs created plus is, I'm not going to get into it because it's one of those dumb nerd stats that tell us a lot, but I'm just sick of the nerd stats. But weighted runs created plus, it's a pretty good measure of a hitter. Since he came back, his weighted runs created plus was 184. Is 184. Now, when he was sent down, it was negative 80, which essentially means he was 180% worse than the league average hitter. So since he came back, his WRC plus is 144, 44% better. But since May 26th, and we're talking 2 months now, 2 full months, his WRC plus is 184. 2 players in either league have a better weighted runs created plus than Will Benson's over the last 2 months. One of those guys is named Corey Seager. The other of those guys is named Shohei Ohtani. He's the best number 9 hitter in the history of baseball. And I'm ready to see him lead off. But again, he's another one like Abbott. And because of the bad start is a big part of it, I think. But he just kind of floats behind some of these other rookies, which makes sense because Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McLean. I mean, Encarnacion Strand recently, and obviously Spencer Steer's been great. But it amazes me how he continues to produce.
Yeah, if he keeps playing anywhere close to this level, we're gonna have to have some real conversations about lineup construction, who you start building out the lineup around, because he's got the power, he's got the speed, he's got the on-base skills. I agree with you. I'd love to see him batting leadoff, but I'm not going to get mad if you bat him third.
For real. So Reds Content Plus is a website, and our buddy Matt Wilkes, who's been on the show here, we need to get Matt back on next. Now that I think about it, he's a good guy. He has a really good breakdown of Will Benson's year so far and what to expect from him. And he makes the point that we've made before, which is just that last year, I mean, he was ready to quit baseball a couple of years ago. He was struggling, and he shortened his swing. He really leaned heavy into, hey, what can I do? I can get on base. I understand the strike zone. So he leaned heavy into that. He shortened his swing up, and it's made all the difference in the world. He had some of the best numbers in AAA of anyone last year. He struggled a little when he came to Cleveland at the end of the year. But the trade to get him for some second-round pick, who cares? Trade all the second-round picks as far as I'm concerned. Is going to end up looking fantastic. So, Will Benson, we love you. All right, let's talk about trade deadline, Nate. If you ready for that?
I guess we have to, don't we? Check Twitter real
Well,
quick. Make sure nothing's happened.
The big news of the week was, I guess this is news, controversy or non-controversy. It's a controversy. Jonathan India on the trade block. Evidently, according to Mark Feinsand of MLB.com, the Reds have reportedly told teams that they'd be willing to trade Jonathan India. And a couple things. Number one, obviously, why wouldn't you? I would never trade Ellie De La Cruz, but I'd be willing to trade anyone else in the right deal. Now, I'm not going to give away Andrew Abbott for nothing. I'm not going to give away Will Benson for nothing, but you can offer me, I don't know who, Mike Trout for one of those guys. Yeah, we're gonna have that talk. So the Reds reportedly willing to trade Jonathan India. Should not have been a surprise to anyone. People freaked out.
Lost it.
I think Jonathan India freaked out a little bit, according to some reports. And I guess what I would say about that is this: the Reds should be answering all the phone calls regarding Jonathan India, and to address one of the big complaints I heard, which was, why would the Reds leak that? How did that get out? And the answer is the Reds didn't leak that. Some other team leaked it because they've been talking about Jonathan India. And so none of it is surprising. I don't know why people were so surprised when you got a guy like India, who's a good, I like India. I've said it a million times here. If he's on the Reds for a long time, I'm happy with it. He's a good player. But you have a lot of young kids, and two particularly at the big league level already, who can play middle infield, can probably hit better than him, and certainly can field better than him. Jonathan has been one. I mean, if you care about defensive metrics for a half season, he's been maybe the worst second baseman in the majors defensively, according to the metrics. Again, put however much weight on that you want. So, but people went nuts, and I get it. He's a popular guy, but what are your thoughts about Jonathan India on the trade block?
Well, it does seem like it was a little bit overblown. All the headlines came out immediately saying Reds tell teams. It seems more like somebody said, "Hey, will you trade Jonathan India?" And they're like, "Yeah, if you give us," they say, "a young, controllable starting pitcher. Plus, if you give us a deal where we win the deal, yeah, we'll trade him." So I think it was a little bit much. Probably just some other team gain a little bit of leverage. Probably the stupid Brewers to try to get into the Reds' heads right before this series.
It worked.
Some nonsense. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But hey, I'm a loud and proud Jonathan India fan. I love what he's brought to this team. From an attitude and energy standpoint, I said 2 episodes ago that I think he has got a case to be the team MVP this year, because I do believe that what he has done and that sort of tone he set from the beginning is a real thing. It's easy to argue against it, but I choose to believe that it is. But like you were saying, it is literally Nick Krall's job to take these calls, listen on everybody, even listen on Ellie. Please don't trade him. Please, God, do not trade Ellie De La Cruz. But if somebody wants to give you their top 15 prospects and they got a guy comparable, okay, sure. Listen, you have to listen. It's your job. But the Reds do have some studs coming up. Also bring Noel Marte up immediately. By the way, he's crushing in AAA right now. And they have to play somewhere. So I don't know, Reds fans, they get super mad about these kind of things, but where do they want these guys to play? They don't want you to trade the prospects, and they don't want you to trade the starters. There's only 9 spots on the field. I don't understand. There's this cognitive dissonance that is mind-blowing and mind-numbing more than anything.
That's just it. Everyone mocked Krall for trading for 6 shortstops. And these guys have to play somewhere. And so the idea from the beginning is you're going to trade some of these guys. And there's a reasonable argument to be made that if you look at the long-term future of the Reds, India's a step or half step behind some of these other guys in terms of what you can expect at the next 5 years. And in addition, India could have some real trade value. He's not a bad player. He's just 2 years removed from Rookie of the Year. And he also has 3 years of team control after this. Mm-hmm. So the Reds may be able to deal him for something that can help. You have to trade some of these guys. You don't want to trade any big leaguers. You don't want to trade any prospects. I'm sorry. You're never going to have a team because at some point you have to fill the holes. That's the way I constantly put it. You have to fill the holes. And how are you going to do that? You got to trade some of these guys. And that's why I'm always like, trade any of the prospects, first of all. I don't care. Trade any of them. But I'm not advocating for them to trade Jonathan India. But if you can get a young, controllable starting pitcher, like you said, how do you not consider that? Just because he has good hair? Which,
great
I
hair,
get it.
though. It's great hair.
I get it. But anyway, so that was the big controversy of the week. The other sort of controversy there is something you kind of touched on that I just want to very briefly mention. There was a subset of Reds fans who, well, first of all, the argument was, well, he's such a leader, you're going to mess up the clubhouse. And I don't believe that trading Jonathan will mess up the clubhouse. But in response to that argument, you have another subset of Reds fans who are like, he's not a leader. Come on, get out of here. Just because he says he's a leader, that doesn't make him a leader. And my response to that is, and that's some of our Slack channel friends. And so I'm going to disagree with you gently because I love you. But there's no doubt in my mind that Jonathan India is one of the leaders on this team. This team has taken cues from him from day one of spring training. His energy, his enthusiasm. They absolutely follow Jonathan India. I'm sorry, you may not want to believe it, but he's one of the leaders of this team. Now, that doesn't mean you can't trade him. I don't think trading him would do anything to the morale of the team or the chemistry of the team. That stuff's there's a bunch of good dudes who play hard, and it's not going to affect it one bit. But I some of my good friends have been sort of vocal in saying he's not a leader just because he says he's a leader. And I'm like, I disagree with you. And maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, but I
would just argue that
I think he's obviously a leader.
I don't think he's a leader because he says he's a leader. I think he's a leader because he's a leader, and he just happened to say it. I mean, right. Spencer Steer talked about it in that article in the Inquirer, where I was like, he's the guy that addresses the team after wins and losses. He is, the emotional behind the scenes guy. He would be super missed on this team. I don't think it's going to impact, a playoff run or anything like that. I think there's too much stock put into that kind of thing. But to say that he is, leadership's overblown, I get it, but I just feel differently. Like this season, even as a fan, like I went into it more optimistic and more excited based on what him and Tyler Stevenson were saying to the media. I'm like, oh, this team's going to be fun. This team's going to try it. They're going to play hard every day. And I can't stress it enough. Like coming off what we did last year, that was a big, big deal. So if he gets traded, I hope it's an awesome, a haul, if you will. If he stays, play league average defense and hit the ball like we know you can. Look good in that Viking helmet.
Yeah. Two things can be true. He can be a leader. And if they trade him, it's not necessarily going to affect the team, the clubhouse. I mean, I do believe he's one of the leaders of this team. Feel free to disagree with me. I don't care. If you do disagree, jump onto Twitter and yell at me.
Yeah, you actually have to subscribe to the YouTube channel to disagree. So hop onto youtube.com/RiverfrontCincy, subscribe, and disagree in the comment section.
There you go.
Bro.
So, he is a pro at this. I'm telling you. No wonder the YouTube channel is growing by leaps and bounds every week. My Cincinnati Magazine column this week was about the trade deadline and what the Reds should do. And essentially my argument is seize the day. I mean, I want to address this issue, and I addressed it in the column of, well, the Reds are ahead of schedule. So let's be happy with where they are and not what's the term that people use all the time in my Twitter mentions? Don't mortgage the future to try to win this year. And I'm like, are you crazy? Whatever schedule you thought the Reds were on, throw it out the window. The schedule now is this team is in the thick of a playoff hunt, and you have a chance to improve the team in the next week, less than a week now, just a few days before the trade deadline. Nick Krall has to try to acquire some pitching. They need at least one starting pitcher. And I don't think it needs to be, I mean, if it's Shohei, that'd be great, but it doesn't need to be a superstar starting pitcher, but they need a veteran league average at least, innings eater. They need a real pitcher. It's, someone to take Luke Weaver's spot, frankly. And they need to get one or two bullpen arms, in my mind, because this bullpen is on the verge of imploding. They've been doing it with smoke and mirrors all year. And David Bell, for those of you that hate David Bell, turn off, just mute me for 10 seconds here. David Bell's done an amazing job managing a bunch of yahoos out in the bullpen to be way better than what they should have been based on the back of their baseball cards. So that's my thoughts. They need at least one starter. They need at least one, and preferably two relievers. Nate, any thoughts about that?
The reliever thing is big for me. They need a lefty reliever in a bad way. Alex Young has been pretty good, and he is a reliever that throws with his left hand. But he has reverse splits. Lefties hit him better than righties do. And David Bell keeps trotting him out there against lefties because he has he throws with his left hand. But I don't get it. I don't understand it. They need that guy in the pen. And they need somebody that can take some of the heat off Alexis Diaz. This is the fourth time this season where we've had to worry about how overworked he's getting. And it's showing on the field. Like, there's still 2 months of ball before the playoffs. They've got to do something to take this load off of him. I would love to see a starter. I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't want to get let down in that regard, but they've got to do something. They've got to build around. The offense is fine. I've got no problem with the offense. I don't think they need to acquire a guy. There's guys they can acquire. Sure. They can make the team better in the outfield with a couple of spots, but that pitching has got to happen. Luke Weaver cannot be out there every fifth day when you are fighting for your playoff lives. And as far as the timeline nonsense, the kids are here now. They're playing great now. The timeline was what the timeline was because nobody expected them to play good. They're playing good. So you're going to lose them. They only have team control for so long. You want to just waste one of those years? Why not compete now and next year and the year after and the year after? All the years. I don't get it. I don't get the argument.
I don't either. The other thing I would say here about the trade deadline is that there's a certain segment of fans who say, well, hold on, we don't have to go. Don't trade any, because these are the guys that don't want to trade anyone. They don't want to trade any of the prospects. But they're like, we don't need to trade because Hunter Green's coming back soon and Nick Lodolo's coming back soon. And so that's as good as a trade. And yes, if Hunter Green, first of all, if Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo come back, that'll be very helpful.
Yeah, we want that. We root for that.
Absolutely. I hope it happens. But two things about that. Number one, what do we do? You're going to still have to trot Luke Weaver out there every 5 days until those guys get back. And that, I know there's a crazy love affair with Luke Weaver because the Reds score 10 runs a game every time he pitches. I hope Mrs. Weaver is not listening here, but Luke Weaver he's not a big league pitcher. He's not a capable big league pitcher. It's time for him to retire or be forced to retire. I'm sorry to say that. I don't want anyone to lose their job, but he is straight trash. So what do we do? What do we do until? I'm sorry, Mrs. Weaver. What do we do until Hunter Green or Nick Lodolo get back? So that's the first part. Second part is, are we going to just presume that Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo are going to come back and no pitchers are going to get hurt again the rest of the season? I mean, have you seen what's happened?
We're going to assume that they're going to stay healthy.
That those two are right. That those two will stay healthy. If Nick Krall does not go, and I don't want him to necessarily go out and get a rental. Maybe if you can get one, he's in a tough spot. I will concede. You don't want to overpay. You don't want to give up some great prospect for some guy that's just going to be around for 2 months. But I don't see how you can be serious about competing this year if you don't get someone to take a Luke Weaver spot. And you don't have to be that great to be better than Luke Weaver. You have to get someone. And so we can talk about names if we, particular pitchers if we want. There's so many variables when it comes to these trades, the trade deadline, that I don't know how productive that is. But if Nick Krall doesn't get someone, I'm going to be disappointed. That's the way I'll put it.
Yeah, the Luke Weaver nonsense is also frustrating because sure, the Reds keep winning his starts. It's wild. It makes no sense. But what's happening the next games, the following games, when the bullpen is exhausted? Because Luke Weaver couldn't get out of the fourth, couldn't get out of the fifth. Just because the Reds are winning the games is no excuse to not go out and improve that spot of the rotation. It's obvious the guy has like an 8 point something ERA. The experiment has to end.
It does. And a similar argument is made about TJ Antone in the bullpen. And maybe I'm just arguing against straw men here. Maybe this is something I've heard. Well, TJ Antone will be back. So hopefully that'll be, they won't have to necessarily get a reliever. He's going to be back. Well, he did start a rehab assignment, and I hope he comes back soon, and I hope he's as good as he was before, but he's coming off his second Tommy John surgery. And so if he comes back, great. If Vladimir Gutierrez, who's getting ready to go on a rehab assignment as well after Tommy John surgery, maybe he can come help the bullpen. He was, I don't know what to say. They have to get someone. If we get to the trade deadline and they don't acquire anyone, I don't even want to think about what that looks like, because I guess my point is this. In baseball, you can't pick your seasons. You can't pick when you're going to be relevant. You can't pick when you have the opportunities. Baseball is not a waiting game. It's a seize the day kind of sport is the way I put it. I guess here's the way I put it in my column. The Reds should be good in the next few seasons. They should be. But, the Cubs and the Cardinals are going to not stop trying to improve, right? The Brewers are not going to stop trying to improve. There's no guarantee the Reds are going to be even in this same position 1 year from now. There's no guarantee the Reds are going to be in the same position any year in the future. And if you think I'm wrong, look at the last 30 years of Cincinnati Reds baseball. They have a shot right now at some glory. And how much evidence do you need that anyone who sneaks into the playoffs has a chance to win the whole thing? So at this point, Nick Krall doesn't have to scrap the whatever the plan was. He doesn't have to, mortgage the future, as so many people like to say. I don't even know what that means, but he has to evolve the plan, right? He has to improve the rotation. He has to improve the bullpen, and he really owes it to this incredibly fun group of kids. And he owes it to Joey Votto, a chance for some immortality in Cincinnati in terms of a big playoff run. So again, I'm ranting again, but I said don't be mad, but I'm gonna be a little upset if Nick Krall does nothing in the next few days. I need to take a breath, Nate. Say whatever you want.
The only thing, just to wrap that up, is that the goal of this whole experience, this whole thing that we're irrationally obsessed with, is for your team to win the World Series. Go do something that gets the Cincinnati Reds closer to winning a World Series this year. Because they've got the horses to be in the exact same position next year if the pieces fall the right way, even if you get rid of some prospects. Go try to win a World Series. That's about all I got.
If you try and they fall short, it happens. Baseball's tough. But I will feel really good about this organization if they really try in the next few days. So we'll see what that means. Trade all the stupid prospects is what I'm saying.
And if there is some crazy trade, we're going to try to hop on here and react in real time. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I really hope we have an emergency podcast over the weekend. So, all right. So let's get some viewer mail, shall we, Nate?
Let's go.
Nate, I got a problem here.
Okay. Talk to me.
So, every time someone joins the I was trying to say Red Leg Nation Radio. Man, we've not been that in a long time. The Riverfront family over at Patreon. When you if you join at a certain level, you get to get a shout out here on the show, and you also get a spot on the Riverfront's beer league softball team.
That's true.
And so we got a new member of the team this week. and I want to shout him out. I want to thank him. I want to give him a position. But I think we're going to skip him this week. I don't think we're going to do it. I think we're going to just say, sorry, you're the first person who does not get a position on the team. Would that be proper, Nate?
I mean, it doesn't seem very proper to me, Chad.
But I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I can pronounce his name. and I fear making myself look sillier than I already do every single week on this show. So, do you want to try the name, or should I butcher it?
We've thrown out the caveat. If it's incorrect, we'll give him a new position with the correct pronunciation next week also.
Well, I'll say this. I haven't I had some things going on today. I haven't been into the Slack channel much today. So I don't know if he's dipped his toes in and introduced himself. But I would encourage him to do that and to yell at us if we get this wrong. So I'm going to try because I really appreciate it. Scott Ruggiero. Ruggiero? Ruggiero?
I was going with Ruggiero.
Scott Ruggiero.
I like it.
And if that's how you pronounce the name, that's a solid name.
I like it. Fan.
So Scott, first of all, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you in the Slack channel. What position does Scott play on the beer league softball team? We've covered up every position like 5
He's a catcher,
times
man.
At this point.
He's a catcher.
Catcher.
Rugged Ruggiero. He is back there making plays. The heart and soul of the team. Captain C on his chest protector.
So is he more of a Johnny Bench catcher or a Dan Bilardello catcher?
Oh, he's our Johnny Bench.
Johnny Bench. Wow.
Damn Bilardello is.
So, all right. So I'm with you then. I'm okay. So he's a right-handed hitting catcher. Got some pop, but really a bruiser behind the plate. No one's going to try to. He'll block the plate, and people will run in terror from. Okay. Scott, my friend, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to getting to know you in the Slack channel, hopefully in the coming weeks. First question from our viewer mail. These questions, as always, come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. That's patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where you too can support the world's most dangerous podcast. And Seth Shaner got in under the wire this week. Seth's question is this. Seth has a little bit of the Rich Thompson gene. He likes a long question. That's okay, Seth. We love you. But, short and pittier is a little better. In 1995, you would have had a hard time convincing me, says Seth, that the Reds would have success if they traded Deion Sanders. But in reality, the package they got back for Sanders and others is probably what put them over the top. Dave Burba and Mark Portugal were valuable on the mound and solidified the rotation and bullpen. Might we need to take a step back and see that trading Jonathan India might just be the ticket to getting some innings eaters and winning the division? The reasons for clinging to India, like Sanders, are largely because of off-the-field qualities. And by the way, the rest of the haul the Giants got alongside Sanders was Dave McCarty, Ricky Pickett, that's a great name, John Roper, the best number 44 in Reds history, John Roper, and Scott Service, who had a combined career WAR wins above replacement of -1.6. What do you think, Nate? We need to take a step back, and that's an interesting way to contextualize it. Although 1995, you were in diapers, I think, although you were 12.
So you're assuming that I'm not still in diapers. No, I think Seth hits the nail on the head. If the Reds have a chance to make this a more well-rounded 26-man roster, they should do it. Jonathan India is the odd man out with this current crop of players, it seems like. And you have to be looking for it. If no deal materializes, that's fine. But you got to be looking.
Yeah, no, I'm not in love with the idea of trading Jonathan India, but India is better than Deion Sanders as a player. Okay, let me just say that.
Baseball player.
As a baseball player, that's right. Deion Sanders, way better pickleball player. Way better. Is that what it is? Pickleball? Is that what they call it?
They do.
This is a tough thing. And we've kind of danced around a little bit, but it's like what Jerry Seinfeld said. We're basically rooting for laundry here. we like these guys because they're wearing the Reds uniform. If Jonathan India had been drafted by the Florida Marlins, the Miami Marlins, I think they're called now. And I know it's obvious from my attempts to do the immaculate grid. I don't know if you all know what that is, but the immaculate grid, look it up. I have a hard time remembering anyone that ever played for the Marlins or the Rockies. But if he had played for the Marlins, we'd be like, that guy's seems kind of fun, good hair, but we wouldn't think twice about it. But he's our guy now. And so you get attached to these guys, and I get it. Your kids are wearing the Jonathan India jerseys and, rookie of the year. I get it. If he can help improve this team and give them a better shot at the playoffs, you have to do it. And so, yes, Seth, I think I like the, for people of my generation, that 1995 is my favorite team. But yeah, you trade some guys, get some, Dave Burba and Mark Portugal were not superstars. They were dependable. They were good. They helped that team. So, I think we need to not hope that Indy gets traded, but accept the idea. Some of you need to accept the idea that it could help the team. Next question comes from Joey Gaditza. Joey Gaditza sends this message from the iced, winterlands of Canada. It's by the way, Nate. He's from I don't know. Is it what do they call him up there? It's not a state. It's a province, maybe. He's from Regina. Regina.
I'm not touching.
Any comments? Any comments on that?
Not touching it at all.
It's negative 40 degrees in Regina today. It's 99 here, but it was negative 40 degrees in Regina. I looked that up at the Weather Channel. Joey Gaditza asks this question: during any series this year with the crew, that's the Brew Crew, how many F-bombs do you think you dropped? Okay, so that's the question. How many F-bombs have you dropped during any series this year with the crew? Well, let's answer that question before we go with Rick Scott's follow-up question. My answer is 0. Actually, I wasn't happy, but I'm not sure that I dropped any F-bombs during that series. Maybe a follow-up question. Go ahead.
There are a couple moments in the Andrew Abbott game when the Reds were up a 4-run lead in the 9th, and then made me sweat that one out when I was trying to go to bed early that night, where I may have said some choice words. But
Rex Scott has a follow-up question. How many F-bombs do you think Joe Farsing dropped? Joe Farsing, the host of the Riverfront Bengals show, which is a little bit less safe for work than this show. But yeah, many is the answer, right?
Yeah, Joe certainly likes to illustrate the diversity of the word. The F word.
He does. We love you, Joe. Next question comes from Jonathan Andrews. Jonathan starts with this: if I see a piece of cheese today, I may very well vomit. Now, look, I understand being mad at Brewers and the Wisconsinites, the cheeseheads, but Jonathan, I guess I'm not going to stand for slander of cheese.
We're a pro-cheese podcast.
We are a pro-cheese podcast. So Jonathan says, thinking of Christian Yelich sends my gaze into a far-off, unfocused, near comatose state that can either be described as deep loathing or unrequited love. It is pretty clear that the cheese heads are in my head. How much more? Okay. See, I have a difficulty reading. My reading cover. They must be in our young team's head, he says. There we go. So how important is the contract extension with David Bell, the presence of Joey Votto, and the mentoring of Jonathan India on this young team's psyche? Are the talented rookies wise and zen beyond their years to make it through the dog days and head into the playoffs, or do they need these rocks to see them through? It's an interesting framing of a question. We have 2 months here where the Reds can be in the mix. How important is David Bell, who is, contract extension has not been signed, Joey Votto, and then the presence of Jonathan India? How much does that affect the Reds, chances of making it through these dog days? I mean, Nate, you want to address any of those?
Not none. It's not zero amount. We've seen Joey Votto working with Will Benson. We know that's paid off. Will Benson's giving him credit. We see Joey on the bench talking to Ellie and, watching video with him. The mentorship of Jonathan India, I don't know how much that is a thing. He's only been in the league for 2.5 seasons. So I don't know, man. I think it's important to have these guys. You do need to have some veterans in your locker room, but these specific ones, I just don't know.
I agree. It's hard to say because we're not in that clubhouse every day. I would say of those three, I actually think Jonathan India, even though I went off earlier and talking about how he's absolutely a leader on this team, I think he's the least important of those three. Although maybe it's David Bell. How much influence does he have? I don't know. But, I just don't see Jonathan India. He's a leader in terms of energy, enthusiasm, the focus of this team. Yes. But I don't see that changing if he leaves because we have so many kids who kind of share that outlook on the team. Mm-hmm. I think Votto, I would love to kind of be a fly on the wall because I think Votto has way more influence on what's going on than people realize. And maybe I'm just saying that because I love Joey Votto unconditionally. And I want to hug him and cry because I love him so much.
He won't let you get very close to him if he hears this podcast.
Well, look, the restraining order is due to be up in a couple of weeks. Okay. So no judge can stop me after that. So we don't have answers to those questions, but they're good questions. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of David Bell, did you see that thing that was running around Twitter today about, was it his dad?
His dad, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that or want to explain what was going on? Because I was clueless.
Well, I don't know that we know enough to know. And if you didn't see it, his father is former Red, Buddy Bell, really good big league player. Cleveland, I think he played for Texas and then played for the Reds as well. He evidently quit. He has been a special advisor to the Reds, whatever that is, for a number of years now. And he quit a while back. And it was only reported today. And of course, John Heyman, the hack reporter, who I hope doesn't sue me because I said that, reported it out today as it's controversial. It's maybe because David Bell they haven't offered him a contract extension yet. I just don't think we know enough to know. The guy was 72 years old. Let me tell you something. When I'm 72 years old, I'm not going to be working. I'm going to be, hanging out in Tuscany somewhere and drinking wine and ignoring the rest of you yahoos. I'm not going to be trying to work. So it could be that he just wanted to retire. It could be something else. I just don't think we know. But yeah, I think it was interesting that it came out now. And that's another question maybe we don't want to touch on today because we're already gone just about an hour. But we probably do need to talk soon about David Bell's future in Cincinnati. Do the Reds need to sign him?
Yeah, we do because he's been good lately, and I would rather have that episode when I'm ready to fire him again, which could happen at any moment.
Yeah, I know you've been hot on him, but we won't tackle that one this week. Rex Scott. By the way, guys, this is the third of our. Joey Gaditz is the only one so far who gave us a short question. We really need short questions. Rex Scott. Most of the youth on our Slack channel didn't know the old National League Western Division. In the 70s, either the Reds or the Dodgers won the division every year that decade except 1971 when the Giants took it. I don't remember because I wasn't born. Can we sum up some of the latent hatred we used to have for Tommy Lasorda, his Hollywood minions, and Mr. Perfect Steve Garvey this weekend? There's a reason God has a fault line running through Chavez Ravine. After all. I love that. The Reds do go out to Los Angeles beginning Friday night. Tonight, if you're listening to us on Fridays, usually do. And they have a 3-game set against the Dodgers before coming back and playing at Wrigley Field against the Fuzzy Cubbies. Yeah, Nate, you probably don't remember that, but I caught the last vestiges of it. And, we have Bill Lack on the show occasionally, and he hates the Dodgers. He despises the Dodgers. And it's because for a long time, the Reds were in that same division, and they were the teams. So I'm willing to bring it back for 3 games.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is if you are going to ask a longer question, please use it to absolutely rip to shreds another franchise because that was some good hate. That was, I mean, he went off on the Dodgers. He went on Tommy Lasorda, his Hollywood minion, Steve Garvey, and just Chavez Ravine in general. That was fantastic. So well done, Rex. I'm here for it.
No, I will concede that. Yes, absolutely. He took advantage of every word in that one. Thank you, Rex. So yes, we're gonna summon up that hatred for the Dodgers. Next question comes from, and I'm not sure I approve of this, but we have one of our friends at Patreon who doesn't want to use his real name, and that's fine. I get. I'm not gonna make you use your real name if you don't want to use your real name. I mean, Chad Dotson's not my real name. My real name is Corin Nemec, by the way. Corin Nemec. And if anybody knows what that means, tweet at me. So this patron says I don't think this is his real name, is what I'm saying. A dinosaur in dental school. Now, I don't even know what that means. But kudos to you for a clever pseudonym. Yes. What was it like growing up with a single syllable name? Do you envy people like Nate that can have a 1, 2, or 3 syllable name as they please?
It's a good question.
It is a good question. Nate, what was it like growing up with a single syllable name? Neither of us know. I don't know. My name's not a single syllable name.
This is true. Getting out of
your
loopholes.
Your name's Nathaniel, right? That's your real name.
You stop. That was going to be my pushback on this comment, is that I don't have a 3-syllable version of my name.
Hey, hold on a second.
There's straight Nathans out there, guys. Just straight Nathans. You get out of here, Chadwick.
I remember the day you were born. Your name's not Nathaniel, really?
You're fired.
My name is, oh boy, I was embarrassed of this for many years, but my name's Chadwick. Chadwick. So I have a 2-syllable name. So, screw you, dinosaur. Dinosaur in dental school. No, I was Chad growing up. And what was it like?
Easier for your parents to yell.
That's true. That's true. I will say there was a guy at our school who we really envied this guy. In no way did we envy this guy, but he was one of these guys who were what we called the infamous 6-letter name club. His name was Ben Cox. 6 letters in that name. That's amazing. That's the same number of letters you have in your first name.
Is that some kind of record?
It's got to be. Ben Cox. I wonder what he's doing these days. Probably incarcerated. James Urban asks this question. Which one was better, Barbie or Oppenheimer? I guess Nate can't answer since he's being a good husband and waiting. Well, I haven't seen him either. You've not seen those, Nate?
I have not yet. I would have seen them both already. If, like James said, I wasn't being a good husband.
Well, I have seen them. My wife and I went to a double feature of Barbie and Oppenheimer last Saturday. And then I went back to see Barbie again.
Does that mean you think Barbie is better?
No, I don't. I don't think Barbie's better. I took my daughter back to see it a second time and enjoyed it. Actually, even more the second time. Oppenheimer's better. Oppenheimer is the best Christopher Nolan movie. And I don't know. I don't know that you just take my my word on that because I'm not a big time Christopher Nolan stan, as the kids say.
I will say I went back and watched Memento the other day.
Oh, it's good.
It was interesting.
Was it not as good as I remember?
I think it was. It's not a cool concept anymore because it's the 5th or 6th Christopher Nolan movie I've seen.
Right. Yeah.
But I bet when it came out it was something. But it was fine.
Yeah. Well, Oppenheimer is fantastic. I want to go back and see it in IMAX. Nate, if you decide to go see it in IMAX, let me know. I'll go with you all.
Deal. James, you can come too.
James can come. Absolutely. 100%. But I'm sorry to tell you all, I know a lot of people don't want to see it, but Barbie was good. Barbie was funny. I mean, laugh out loud funny. I mean, Greta Gerwig directed it and co-wrote it, and she's just a genius. She's just 5 years from now, she's going to be the greatest living, the greatest working director. I really believe that she's just fantastic. So the movie's good. It's fun. Margot Robbie, I'm not gonna. She's mid, but that's what I was told. But Ryan Gosling steals the show.
Decidedly not mid. Ryan Gosling is a handsome fella.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling's not mid. Oh, are you crazy? Oh man, dreamy. He's dreamy. So yeah, I liked them both. Good question, James. Which one's better though? Was Oppenheimer. Kyle Kapler probably means nothing, but which of the following players could be relevant enough to be traded next week who contributed in some fashion this season? I'm basically listing players who are blocked that have a high probability of not having a future with this franchise. So, which of the following players could be relevant enough to be traded next week? Options are Stuart Fairchild, Jose Barrero, TJ Hopkins, Nick Senzel, and Kevin Newman, just trying to spark trade conversation. To me, there's only one of those who could be relevant enough. I mean, they could all be traded, but most of them are probably throw-ins. There's only one, maybe two, that I think could be quote-unquote relevant enough, as Kyle asks. And that, to me, that's Jose Barrero and Nick Senzel. And Barrero, because he is mashing at AAA all of a sudden. He's showing some of what we had hoped for. Senzel, because Senzel's a good fourth outfielder. He can help a team. Well, he can help this team as a fourth outfielder, but I could see him being moved. Thoughts, Nate?
Yeah, the only mild zag I'll have there is I could see a spot for Kevin Newman because the way he crushes lefties. Senzel's been crushing lefties, struggling against them for a pretty decent sample size now. So every team needs that bench bat that Kevin Newman becomes only when left-handers are on the mound. Otherwise, I agree, yeah. But I don't want to trade Barrero. He's the future, center fielder of the future. Keep Jose. I never gave up. Never gave up hope for Jose. And he's mashing. His soul glow is playing in my head 24/7. I can't sleep. I'm so excited. Tim Daniel loves it. I love it. Jose's back, baby.
I mean, seriously? Seriously? All right, if you say so.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our last question comes from Brandon Kamek. Brandon, we've gone long, and this one is going to probably require a little bit of exploration in the coming weeks. But the question is this. Looking into the offseason, what free agents will Nick Krall realistically target? After Shohei Ohtani, of course. And I guess you can add whatever you want to add here, Nate. I'll just say quickly, it's got to be pitching. And, I look at the free agent class for next year, and I like Ohtani. I like Marcus Stroman. I'm okay with Martin Perez. He's a lefty out of Texas. Eduardo Rodriguez, obviously, who I hope the lefty from Detroit, who I hope the Reds will trade for at the trade deadline, and then try to work out something.
That's definitely my answer. 2 birds, 1 stone. Let's trade for him now and then re-sign him in the offseason.
Yeah, because he has that opt out. I don't know, Julio Urias. I'm okay. I like the idea of him, but in terms of pitching, they have to make a splash. But man, I don't know. I don't love the crop of future free agents.
Yeah, you can get a more mid-tier guy like a Ross Stripling. I think could be a decent piece. Definitely depth at some point. Even like the Alex Woods of the world. How about Sonny Gray? Could they just have Sonny Gray maybe? Wouldn't it be cool to see him in a Reds uniform?
I just want them to get one more starter and like 3 legitimate relievers, and then let's rock and roll. I'm ready to go. Well, let's run it back with everybody else we have. All right, Nate, what else is going on around the riverfront these days?
Man, Brother Tim Daniel over at Late Night Reds has a fun episode coming up this Sunday night
Oh, man.
live, and he did announce it on his last week's show, so I'm not spilling any news here. Jumbo Diaz, Reds legend Jumbo Diaz, joining Tim for a conversation on Sunday night at 9 o'clock, live here on YouTube's and the Twitters. What else is going on? Joe and Greg just dropped a new episode of the Riverfront Bengals show that they recorded, if I'm not mistaken, after the scary Joe Burrow carted off the field with a calf injury news. Still waiting on some updates to see the severity. Spoiler alert, doesn't seem too crazy. Other than that, Chad, I just want to really shout out our friends over at SeatGeek. Remember that promo code Riverfront for $20 off your first order.
Absolutely. All right. Listen, this was a fun one. Thanks to everyone for listening and supporting the Riverfront. Tell your friends about us. If you like us, talk about us. If you don't like us, just keep your mouth shut. But that's the way to grow a show. Please, please, please remember to subscribe to the show either on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. If you're listening on the audio version, we are on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook at Riverfront Cincy, on all those platforms. And, once again, I got to say it, a big time thank you to our supporters at patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy. I mean, it's growing every week. I have so much fun on our Slack channel just talking to the family. And I'm serious. This show would literally not be possible without that support. We would have given it up long ago. So, hey, come join in the hijinks. Go to patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy or click the link in the show notes. Any quick final thoughts, Nate?
Go Reds. Let's enjoy this playoff hunt.
Shout out to Adam Dunn.
Ooh.
Shouts to Lisa Alberto, Wayne Krenchick, and Eli Cash for Nate Dotson and Pokey Reese. And the Reggie Bar. This is Chad Dotson saying, so long, everyone.